Hey everybody, this is GGB Coles Peppers. We're going to be talking about the Lions-Steelers game today. I hope you guys are excited. But, get straight into this. Winners in this game. And I'm not going to include people you know are good. Like Big Ben Roethlisberger came in this game and dominated. Most people expected he would come out in this game and dominate. So not exactly a surprise there. Players that improved their roster spot or spot on the depth chart, or at least is made a case to be on the 53-man roster. And if we're going to talk about a quarterback that won this game, it's got to be David Blau. David Blau's got to be the first name we mention. I understand it's Detroit. And if we're going to be talking about Detroit, there's not many winners on this team. I will mention a couple, but honestly not that many popped out if you were watching the game, because definitely the Steelers won this game by a lot. It was just the Lions kind of made it closer at the end than it should have been. But David Blau looked good. And if you're making the case to either be the number 3 QB and be on the roster, or be the number 2 QB over Tim Boyle, because let's be honest, Tim Boyle did not look good. I'll get to him later in the losers section. But David Blau went 12 of 17, threw for 143 yards and a touchdown. Okay? He also ran the ball quite effectively, 2 carries for 26 yards, showed his ability to scramble. He looked good. I didn't think I'd be saying that about David Blau, because I'm still mad at him. Because he didn't beat the Packers, and that would have given the Saints a bye. God damn you, David Blau! But, on a serious note, God damn it. He looked good. He did. Maybe he's improving as a player, or maybe he was just going against some really crappy players. But he looked way better than Tim Boyle in my eyes. Tim Boyle was from Eastern Kentucky. I didn't know that. I just was interested. Mason Rudolph also looked good to me. I don't know if any other Steelers fans think the same way I do. But he went 13-18, threw for 138 yards. He's not going to wow you with his spectacular playmaking ability. But he's a solid game manager. I mean, he's not a bad backup QB to have on your roster. Is he possibly the future of Pittsburgh? I'm going to go with no. He has a nice deep ball. Maybe if he could work on some other parts of his game, I could see him as the future in Pittsburgh. I don't think it's Haskins, by the way. I'll talk about him later. But I don't think he's that good. Another player I think won this game. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions a little bit more here. But Godwin Igwebuike. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But he had 7 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 3 yards per carry. Now, I guess I understand, not the best on the roster, but to be fair, Igwebuike, outside of Jermar Jefferson, he was the only running back really going against some top-tier opponents, right, in the Pittsburgh defense. So, he looked good. He did. He looked pretty good. And if you're making a case to be the number 4 running back on this team, which is what Godwin's trying to do, that's what Godwin is attempting to do here, and you are a 4th season undrafted running back out of Northwestern, you got to take all the opportunities you have, and this was a huge opportunity for him, and I think he took advantage of it. And I think he could make this team quite possibly. Okay. Running game on the other side of things, I'd like to talk about Kalen Ballage for just a split second. Kalen Ballage is a guy I could see him making this roster. I know some Steelers fans are not going to agree with me on that. I could see him making this roster. I really could. I think it's a possibility here. I mean, you have Najee Harris, but after that, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarlane, Jalen Samuels. Are you sold on any of those guys as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? Like, for 100% sure. Like, I understand Benny Snell's a guy that you invested a 4th-round pick in not that long ago. But has he looked that good? No. Anthony McFarlane's a 6th-round pick, and we'll get to him a little bit later, but definitely did not win this game. Jalen Samuels didn't even play. Actually, he did play. Never mind. But he didn't look good. So, I mean, Kalen Ballage, on the other hand, has been a solid player for this entire thing. What a good player he's been. And honestly, I don't understand how you don't at least consider taking him at this point, right? Or keeping him. I mean, he was so good. He was so good. Thing. He's looked good. He's really looked good. I love Kalen Ballage. I've been a huge fan of him for a long time. I would keep Kalen Ballage as a Steelers fan. I'm also going to go with Najee Harris as winner of this game. I understand his running stats aren't spectacular. 4 carries for 10 yards. But I think what a lot of people were questioning him on, I honestly didn't think it was that big of a deal because I went back and I watched his film and I actually thought passing game was way more. I didn't remember him being a huge part of the passing game, but you go back and watch the big time games, he was pretty big in the passing game. So I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And honestly, he kind of proved me right today. 2 catches for 53 yards. He was only targeted 3 times. So I mean, pretty decent stats. I honestly think he looked really good. Other receivers, I think, won this game. Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy is, he's had 1 season in the league. Undrafted player. He's a Lions receiver, if you were wondering. I understand. People didn't quite get that. Out of Bryant College, so, again, not a big-time college. He looked good. Tom Kennedy really did. He had 4 catches for 61 yards. He had a long of 31. He caught every pass he was targeted on. And if you're looking at the Lions receiving core, I mean, Tyrell Williams, Rashad Perryman are the number 1 and number 2. And I honestly think they're pretty solid receivers. I don't think they're number 1 and number 2 on certain teams, but I do think they're good players. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to make the roster, so is Quintez Cephas. So that's 4 spots. I think there's an argument to me that made that Khalif Raymond's a lock. I mean, they went out, they signed him in free agency. I mean, he's been good with the Titans. So, I mean, again, 5th season out of Holy Cross. There's a reason why he's still in the league, and there's a reason why he was so successful with Tennessee. I think he's on this team. But if they keep 6 receivers, I mean, there's an argument to be made for any one of these players. You got Victor Bolden. Victor Bolden's 3rd season, undrafted out of Oregon State. You got Tom Kennedy, the guy I mentioned. Geronimo Allison, 5th season out of Illinois, again, undrafted. And then you have Sage Surratt, an undrafted player this year out of Wake Forest. I think literally an argument can be made for any one of them. But at the present moment, I'm leaning toward Tom Kennedy. Because Tom Kennedy looked good. Personally, just my opinion. I feel like that's the way I'm leaning. I don't know if anyone else agrees. He won this game in my eyes, though, because at the very least, you're showing off for another team, and that performance could get you a spot on another team. Pat Friermuth, he is down the list in terms of yardage, only 19 yards and only 2 catches. He was targeted 3 times. 2 touchdowns. And I think that you kind of saw what you're going to get from Pat Friermuth, and that's why you take him in the 2nd round, is that kind of red zone target. I mean, Pat Friermuth was dominating the Lions defense in the red zone. So, I mean, I feel like that's why you draft Pat Friermuth. He won this game in my eyes. He was a huge winner. Go to another player I thought won this game. Derek Barnes was all over the field. I don't know if anyone else noticed it. For the Detroit Lions, like, he was everywhere. He was tackling people. He was sacking people. He was getting rid of pass deflections. He almost had some picks. He was hitting the QB. He ended up having 6 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections, 1 quarterback hit. And honestly, one of those pass deflections should have been an interception. He put himself in the perfect spot, just didn't quite grab it. But he looked phenomenal in this game. And if you're talking about a guy that needs to step up for the Detroit Lions, they need their rookies to step up. And if it's looking the way it looks, you could have it. And honestly, the Lions have some pretty good depth at linebacker. You got Romeo Okwara, you got Alex Anzalone, you got Jamie Collins Sr., you got Trey Flowers, Julian Okwara, Derek Barnes. Now, to be fair, they play 4 linebacker sets. So Trey Flowers, too. So you're going to need a good amount of linebackers to play. And if Derek Barnes turns out the way I think he could end up, this could be a pretty good linebacker core this year. And honestly, I think the Lions defense is a little bit underrated. Another player I think had a good game that I think could end up landing on another roster is Matthew Sexton. Matthew Sexton was an undrafted player this year out of Eastern Michigan. He was cut by the Steelers, but he had some phenomenal kick returns in his time with Pittsburgh. He ended up having a punt return that was 1 for 47 yards. He brought 1 back for 47 yards. So, I mean, if you really want a kick returner, Matthew Sexton, he looked really good with his time here. Also, players I think lost this week. You got to go with Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle's a guy that's trying to play for his backup quarterback spot. Now, he's been a backup quarterback in Green Bay for many years. They decided Jordan Love is who they want to rock with at backup quarterback. He walked in free agency. He was signed by Detroit, who's Dan Campbell's trying to get a similar atmosphere to Green Bay going. But if you want to win the backup QB job, and David Blau is outperforming you, that is not good. He went 7-15 for 44 yards. I'll repeat that. 44 freaking yards. He went nowhere. I mean, nowhere for most of this game. Threw under 50% completion percentage. He had a quarterback rating of 53.5. That's not good if you're Tim Boyle. That is really bad if you're trying to win this roster spot. Another loser in my eyes is Dwayne Haskins. If you're Dwayne Haskins, you really need to come out and show out if you want to get that number 3 QB job. And honestly, he threw 4 for 7 yards. He went 4-7 for 56 yards. Didn't look good. He really didn't look good. I have slanted against Dwayne Haskins, but I just don't think he's a very good QB. Another loser I have in my eyes is, real quick, I'll say Benny Snell Jr., just simply because he hasn't played yet this preseason. Now, I do believe he played in the last preseason game. I will watch the Steelers tape on that one, and I'll get you some winners and losers soon. But in this game, he did not play, and if you're Benny Snell, you kind of need to play, right? There is a huge running back going on with you, Jalen Samuels, Anthony Mcfarlane, and Kalen Ballage, and you, at the very most, keep 4 running backs. One of you is going to either the practice squad or free agency, so you needed to show up in this game, and you did not even play in this game. And then another player I like to point out as a loser is Anthony Mcfarlane. I thought he was going to be a winner at the beginning of the game because he was the first running back out of the gate after Najee Harris was out. And plus Matt Canada, he's worked with, I was actually a coach in college in Anthony Mcfarlane, but Anthony McFarlane only having 6 carries for 11 yards. Now, he was a little bit more productive in the passing game, having 2 catches for 21 yards, but he didn't look good. And you're trying to make your case as the number 2 back. Didn't do a great job here today. But everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. But everybody, this is GGB Coast Pepper saying adios amigos.